Hey everybody, okay, so today we are going to be working on copper bracelets again, but this time it's gonna have a twist to it. So I'm enlisting some help today because part of this it's just a little bit too rough for me. So we're gonna have some help getting part of this done, and I think you're gonna like what we come up with. And this is gonna help you if you choose to go this route with this kind of bracelet. It's gonna help you raise your price point on a product. So let's get started. We got a lot to do today. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten out a length of this, and I've got a pretty long length of this. And the reason why I want a longer length of this is because I'm going to use this to make several bracelets. I want this to get kind of smooth, so I'm using my rubber mallet for this. I want it to be kind of flat, not smooth, flat at this point in time. Because it's just going to be easier. Now, during the hammering of this, because it's longer, during the hammering of this, it's going to want to curve naturally. And I can straighten some of this out while I'm working on it. Some of it, there's not going to be much I can do about that. That is okay. No worries. It will all turn out okay in the end. Okay, now that we've got that taken care of, I'm going to want this pretty flat today. So I'm not using my rubber mallet to make this flat today. I am going to go ahead and use my sledgehammer. I want this pretty flat. If you notice, I have not changed my gloves yet. I have not found the pair that I'm looking for. I've narrowed it down to a couple of different kinds. I found one pair online that's Kevlar that I might be trying out. If you have a brand that you're interested in or that you know of, again, leave me feedback in the comments because I'm trying to keep from spending a lot of money on a pair of gloves and then me just chew through them like I've been doing. So if there's a brand that you know of, please, please, please give me a heads up before I spend a whole lot of money on a pair of gloves and they don't work out for me. Okay, so we're going to flatten this out. And I'm not going to make you watch me do the whole thing, so I'll be back in a minute when this is done. Okay, so now that we have this very long, very flat piece of copper, it is time to enlist the help of our guest today. And he is going to help us twist this. So we'll be right back with a guest. Bye. Okay, everyone, we are back. And because I have such a bum shoulder, this is AJ, my fiance. And he is going to help, you're all the way in, he's going to help us twist this. He's using a drill and a vise, and he's twisting that copper that I just flattened with the vise and the drill to turn it into a corkscrew of sorts. That is gorgeous. Now, most of you can probably do this just fine on your own, but my chiropractor's mad at me enough already, so I get help. Awesome. Thank you, baby. What we now have is some very nice, tightly wound, corkscrewed copper tubing. And this is what we're going to make our bracelet off of. I've already cut off a piece of 5.5 inches. So that's going to be our bracelet. And the rest of this I can get probably probably 2 more bracelets out of this. So I'm going to put that to the side. And we are going to use a sledgehammer for this because we need to hammer this flat again now that it is wound tightly. I've cut off the ends that were inside the vise, so we don't need those. And after we have flattened this out, we're going to take it over to the sander again, and we're just like we did with the other one, we're going to smooth it out, and then we're going to use our mini grinder like we did on the other one. But this is going to be a great bracelet. Again, I can't do that pulling thing with the twisting with the vise just because my shoulder gives me so much trouble. So AJ always helps me out with that part. You can probably do that pulling thing just fine. It's just because of my shoulder that I can't do that part. So keep in mind that's just a limitation I have. It doesn't mean you're gonna have that problem because I just can't do that pulling with my shoulder. Okay, so let's get started with some hammering on this, and we are using the sledgehammer on this. I want it to be pretty flat. Okay, now if you notice right away, because of this, the nature of it, it starts curling up. So I'm going to come from the other side with my rubber mallet, and I'm going to meet it the other way. And try to make your strokes with the sledgehammer as even as possible so it doesn't spread out too wonky. It will make your life easier. Now, if you notice, my bracelet is starting to curve that way. When that happens, start working at it from the other end. The part that is raised should always be facing up when you do this. It's easier to do this while you're working on it than after. Don't wait until you've flattened the whole bracelet to go back and try to do this because it won't flatten out. Wrong hammer. Curved. Most of these will come out. Now, in the beginning, when you're doing this, you are probably going to go through some bracelets. Do not get down on yourself if these turn out incredibly wonky to start. I had some of these that were really twisted and gnarly, and I went through quite a few where they were so skewered. I just ended up throwing them away. There was nothing I could do with them. They turned into scrap copper. Don't beat yourself up. I've been making these for a long time. So if your first few turn out looking like poo, just keep at it because it's like anything else. Practice, patience, and persistence is what's going to win at the end of the day. Just like when I was teaching for a long time, I would tell my students, it's all about those 3 P's. Practice, patience, and persistence. That's what's going to get the job done every single time. Okay, we are ready to go ahead and take this over to the sander. We might be making 2 trips to the sander today. I'm not sure. Sometimes I do make 2 trips to the sander with these. Okay, let's head on over for our first trip. Because I hammer these so hard with the sledgehammer, I like to get all these dents out. or as many of them as I can. And the belt sander is really, it's the best way that I've got to do that at this point in time anyway. Now you might notice that I skipped a step. I did not go immediately over to the mini grinder like I did with the other bracelets. And there's a reason for that. Because of the nature of this bracelet, I'm letting it cool down for a minute because it's hot from the sander. Because of the nature of this one, because I sanded it and because of those grooves in there, when I go to shape it around the anvil, I'm going to have a lot of, I'm going to have some rough points. I'm going to have some sharp edges in there when it's raised up, when it curves around the anvil, when I make that bracelet shape. So if I go ahead and take it to the mini grinder now to smooth it out, there's really no point in that because I'm going to have to take it back over to the mini grinder anyway. So I'm going to end up back over at the sander, I think, on this one anyway. So I'm just going to wait and I'm going to hold that step until later when I have to go back and do it anyway. So we're going to go ahead and shape our bracelet and then we're going to go back here in a minute. But I did realize something. I skipped a step. I did not shape the ends of my bracelet like I normally do on the sander. I messed up a little bit, so that's okay. I'll go ahead and shape them after we form it. I just generally like to shape the ends of the bracelet before it's formed because it is a little bit easier to do it while it's flat. Again, it is really good practice to learn how to use a hammer with both hands. So if you don't know how to use a hammer with both hands, I suggest you learn. My chiropractor is not a fan, but I am. It actually makes my life a lot easier. Especially when one of my shoulders is acting up more than the other. Okay, now these bracelets are really easy to twist. They really are. So I am going to do the same thing that I did on the other one to get that little curve that I like in the middle. I'm going to press it around the middle of the anvil. And let me tell you something about the design of this bracelet, guys. This bracelet, I can barely keep this bracelet stocked. This bracelet sells out quicker than any of my other bracelets. And I priced this bracelet out at $45. And when you factor in the copper, the time, you know, factor in your time, the packaging. I use really nice packaging for these. When you're packaging, that's another thing. When you're packaging these, make sure you put these in a really pretty package. I recently stepped up my packaging, and I'll show those to you in one of the future videos. I recently stepped up my packaging. I go through a company called Allure online, and I pay more for the boxes now than I used to. Of course, I mean, you get what you can afford, but pay for nice packaging. When you pay for nice packaging and you package it well, your client's willing to pay a little bit more. So I priced these out at $45, and I can barely keep these stocked. And people are willing to pay for a nice handmade product, so keep that in mind. Okay, so like I said, now that it's shaped, I can feel where it's rough. I can feel where it's rough, and I don't want it to be rough. I can feel where it's rough right here. So I don't want that. Nobody wants it to be rough against their skin. So I'm going to take this over to the mini grinder. I don't think it needs the sander, really. It's not that sharp. It's twisted really nice. This one's twisted really nice. Thanks, AJ. It's not too sharp. I think the mini grinder just needs the mini grinder, I think. But I do need a new wheel on the mini grinder, so I'm going to change out that wheel, and let's get going. Okay, well, we wound up over at the sander anyway, because if you remember, I didn't shape the edges of my bracelets. So you get to see kind of why it's easier to do this while it's flat, okay? It's just easier to do this while it's flat. So theoretically, I could flatten this out again and just do it while it's flat, but I'll show you guys. You kind of get to learn from my mistake on this one, and you get to see why it's easier to do this while it's flat rather than while it's bracelet shaped. Okay, let's get going. Okay, it can be done. It's just kind of a pain because, you know, you have to work around the other edge, the other end of the bracelet. I just personally prefer to shape the ends of the bracelet while the wire is flat. That's just me. Do it however works for you. I just prefer to do it while it's flat. It's a personal preference. I find it's easier to do. I just messed up on this one. So you learn from my mistake and go forth and be successful. We are back over here at the mini grinder, and as usual, I'm going to keep one glove off for this so I can feel of it and see how rough it is. And I'm not going to change out the wheel. I thought I was going to, but I've still got a lot left on this. And let me tell you something. I will use one of these gray wheels until there is almost nothing left on it, just because, you know, these things cost money, and I believe in using them until there's nothing left. So I'm going to actually start on the edges here because you know, I messed up and, you know, I want to get these done. So I'm going to use the outside to get these smoother. Okay, now if you notice, I am losing a lot of fuzz on this one just because it was so rough. And on these, you're going to tear through these pretty quick. Another reason why I didn't change it out, because I would eat through a new one pretty quick. So you're going to eat through these on this particular kind of bracelet, just because you've got a lot more sharper edges than you do on the regular pipe that's smooth, and you don't have a lot of resistance. On these, you've got a lot more jagged edges. So just be prepared. You're gonna eat through some of these. Okay, that feels pretty nice. Okay, now I like these little bumps that you get while you're forming while the pipe is being twisted and then it's flattened. That's some pretty cool texture that you get on the outside. It's been a pretty popular design. Okay, now what happens when it's chewing up one of these is you get a lot of dust in there. So I'm going to turn it back on, and I'm going to use this edge or this side to get rid of some of that and dust it out. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah, that turned out great. Again, these are really good sellers. I can't keep these stocked up enough. They sell almost as quickly as I make them. They're great for markets, and they're great gifts. They're a simple gift that sells really quickly, and people really love these. So again, if you want to keep these from tarnishing, a good way to do that is to clear coat them on the outside but leave the inside raw, so people can have the benefits of copper. Again, a lot of people will say, oh, I don't like copper because it'll turn my skin green. Copper turns everybody's skin green if you're not drinking enough water. So just know that if you're not drinking enough water, copper is going to turn your skin green, because if you're sweating, you're letting out salt, and the salt is going to activate with the copper, and it's going to turn your skin green. So a little bit of a rule of thumb on copper. Copper turns everybody's skin green. You're not allergic to it. Okay, I will be right back with what we're going to work on next. Bye. So next time we'll be working on a different kind of earring. We'll be using some new tools, and I think you'll be very interested with what we come up with, because we'll be using some tools you would never think to use for making jewelry. So thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps so much with the channel. I'm trying to grow it, trying to do something new, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate your support. So stay tuned. A lot more fun stuff is coming, and I'm gonna get into the studio pretty soon and be working on some master canvases. So a lot of fun projects coming up. So thanks again. Have a great day. Stay safe and love each other.